Hello, everyone. We are back again with Black Nerds Matter. Really excited to see you all today. It's going to be a wonderful recording. Today we have Jasmine Suarez with us. She's a multi-award winning technologist, mentor, and advocate with a Master of Science in Information Technology Management and Cybersecurity from Colorado State University Global. She has advised national and international leaders on both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches, authored and contributed to technology security policies on Capitol Hill. Hey Jasmine, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Hi, Dietrich. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. I mean, you have we talked a little bit beforehand, but I think you have a lot of really interesting things to bring up that we haven't talked about in the podcast before. So super excited, super ready to get this going. So can you share with me your upbringing, where you from, how'd you grow up, home life, all that kind of stuff?
Yes, so I'm originally from Jersey City, New Jersey. I was born in Newark, New Jersey. So I'm an East Coast girl, and I grew up with my parents and my siblings out there. And when I grew up, I was exposed to a lot. I would say I definitely had, which leads into my career, but I had the foundations for like what community is. So everything we did, we were very close knit. Everybody's your cousin type of environment, but it was definitely an opportunity to explore. It was a melting pot of cultures. You know, we're right next to New York. My dad's originally from the Bronx. His family's from Puerto Rico, and so like we had a definitely like the different cultural aspects in our family, our household, but also our community from people from Asia, Europe, all over the world. And it really helped me to see that the world was as big as I wanted to make it growing up. I always believe that the world is as big as small as you make it, but my parents definitely played a part in making it big for me. So that's where I'm from, and that's how my upbringing was.
Okay, awesome. So you talked a bit about growing up in, you said New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Yeah, New Jersey. Okay, we had someone recently that was from New York on the podcast. Uh,
Sweet.
how was growing up there, and how was that? I'm just thinking about living in cities, all that kind of different stuff. Did that? I know you're doing some stuff environmental. Did you have very much environmental experiences growing up in the city?
Yeah, so in Jersey, we would have like a pier. So we used to go to the pier. One of my mom's friends, like her church mate growing up, they definitely did stuff on the marina. So we got to go out there. Like we used to have vacation Bible school, at church, and we would go out there for some of our VBS trips with church and got to see like the marina and looking at the ports and then talking with fishermen. It was really cool. And so we had that experience. And also growing up in the city when you just can't access water. So we have the Hudson River. We can go to New York and we can do all of that. But Coney Island. But when you're not directly accessing water, bodies of water, it definitely can, I guess, make your world a bit smaller in a way to see how you're connecting to others. We can just drive to Jersey, take a train, or drive to New York, take a train, or we can go to like DC, Philly, or whatever. But when you get to actually see, like, go to the harbor, when I used to go to Baltimore Harbor growing up, or just anywhere we can go, it made me think like, how am I connected to others? Even though I'm usually using like roads, railways, we have train systems out there. Like what is different for others that are connected to bodies of water that can access this every day? And I was always curious about that. Actually, how I learned how to swim wasn't even going to like the beach or anything. My dad used to take us swimming when he would go to work trips and we would go to the hotel. And I'm like, I want more. I wish we could do this. I wish we had access to the beach and all of these things, especially in the city. So it definitely impacted how I viewed the environment, and then like how I could play a stronger part in that, because I definitely love that aspect of my life, but I didn't get it all the time.
That's so interesting. It's good that you're able to experience some of that, and then it's able to lead you into different interests and things in your life later. So I'm wondering about how your journey into marine science, IT, and cybersecurity. These are all very different things. How'd you get into each of them?
Well, the funny part about that is, me being an advocate for STEM, I would even say STEAM, really, science, technology, mathematics, arts, and engineering. We are all connected and we all rely on each other. So they're not disparate. So my work in cybersecurity, technology, security, critical infrastructure, that is what marine science is supporting directly, whether we are studying coastal ecosystems, whether we are looking at maritime cyber operations for the military. that is what we're doing. So we are more connected more than ever. Marine scientists rely on operational technology. We, as cybersecurity professionals, we are very much in tune with the needs of operational technology, information technology, the risks, again, to critical infrastructure. If we have water, we have no life. So I really said to myself, I said, okay, I love my ability to help with critical infrastructure, supporting the country in different areas in different ways. But I also have this love for marine science. I love diving, snorkeling. I train. I do different things. And if I love it so much, then why am I not extending my education and my knowledge formally as a marine scientist, like getting the education? I thought initially like it was hard, like, okay, like, but I'm not a scientist. But I thought about it like, life is a science in itself. Life is a discipline in itself. So why would I limit myself when I already am in the ecosystem? I am diving. I do know people that are practitioners. We're in BIMs. I have this
Hmm.
connection. Now it's time to step up and refine myself and actually learn science so that I can contribute more and actually play the role. And that's the connection there. And I'm really about that in my field, bridging gaps and silos and saying, well, hey, no, you do know a science. Computer, cybersecurity, information security is a subset of computer science. So if I can learn this, I can do it there too. And so let me challenge myself to step up and show another example of how we can also help. And also marine scientists learning cybersecurity, information technology, the new innovations with AI-enabled tools that can help secure divers and, make things safer and help us to really go deeper in our research and explore the depths of the ocean. We physically can't go but so deep, right? But I can help bring that piece to my marine science friends and our teammates and to help that. And so I'm happy that got the courage to do that. And then, definitely got connected with BIMS through Rob, my special friend Rob Rad BIMS, and to really make that a reality and also bring other technologists with me to do that.
Okay, so I'm hearing you talk about information technology, cybersecurity. What exactly is information technology, and how does that play a role in cybersecurity? I have a buddy who's doing cybersecurity right now, and he just tells me, yeah, these classes are hard as hell, but I don't know exactly what that entails and what you guys are doing. I know somewhat about coding and using R because that's what I use, but I'm wondering from your perspective, what are these things and how do you do it on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so on a day-to-day basis, it literally is so expansive. So information technology could be making sure that your literal hardware and software are available. We are doing the basics, making sure your system's running, your operating system's running. Cybersecurity will be making sure that your system is secure, the data in your system is secure. Anything that is the connection point between the internet and the digital world, the web that we cannot see. So that is like non-kinetic, making sure that is available, making sure that there aren't adversaries coming in and attacking your network. So, for example, if you're a marine scientist and you're using a technology and you need to send signals of, transmit data, we're making sure that we are securing the networks that make sure that that data is not being compromised or intercepted by our adversaries. So that's what we do. So we have a part that is making sure that the basic functions are there. They're able to make sure your systems are running, but also the security aspects and making sure they're secure, they're sound, they're safe, and we're able to operate and navigate the digital world safely. And so that is really what we do in our work. In my aspect of it, though, I help deliver these through the form of projects. So I'm really like a technical information technology manager or a technical project manager. You could even phrase it as that. But I also have the policy component. So with technology security, public policy, that's what I was doing in the United States Senate, supporting Senate Homeland. And we made sure that there were policies in place to help do this because everything starts with policy, environmental policy, information technology policy, cybersecurity policy, it starts there. So making sure now that I have like the technical background and acumen, I can help write legislation and help legislators understand the needs from a technical standpoint. From being in tech support, I've done it, being in tech support and saying, okay, these are the basic requirements. Like I have to do a support ticket. I have to make sure that, they can get into their user database, to making sure that database is secure, and also risk to that being compromised. That's what we do. And then we can create policies to make sure that it is enforced and that it is just I would say it's basically a foundational requirement to how things are, secure by design, secure by default, basic and good cyber hygiene for that, for the systems that we are using. And then operational technology, the other facet is everything that is, we don't want it directly connected to the to the internet, right? You can shut down a city's whole water system, right? If there is a poor connection there. So making sure that everybody understands in that ecosystem their part, because it is very important in two operations happening that people often don't see behind the scenes. But again, I don't even want to say it's hard. Is this more so like logic more than anything, and making sure you know where everything is connected and what the impact of those connections are. So I do a little bit of all of it, but my passion, my sweet spot is delivering these capabilities through the form of projects, and also helping writing policies to make that more possible and in a more efficient and effective way, like at a national scale. So I would describe it as that.
I'm just thinking about it because, so are you the person that somebody's like, hey, I need to get into my account, or like something's wrong with my computer, and you're like, have you tried turning it on and off? Or is that the IT that we're talking about?
That's IT. That's how I started, right? But to make sure that you are the person that can get into that account, now that's me more. Are you the authorized user? Now we're talking about security, making sure that you are supposed to be in that account. We're verifying you. We are making sure you're approved and you have the proper access. We're making sure that you only get the access that you need. That is the security aspect. Now you're going from information technology to information technology security. And then, of course, in the digital realm, if you're trying to connect to an online port like your bank account, now you're going into the digital realm and connecting over multiple servers and multiple systems to verify, yes, you can get into this Chase account. That's you. Yep. Check mark. And then we're making sure, yep, that Chase account or those servers are working to be able to give the service to the end user or the client. So yes, that's pretty much, that's me. Like, that's me now. But I had to learn how to actually turn the thing on first before I started knowing how to secure it when it's on.
Yeah, it makes me think about the questions you get, like, oh, what was your kindergarten teacher's last name? What was your pet's first name? What
Yes,
street did you grow
yes.
up on? All that kind of stuff. Because my dad works credit for Mercedes Benz, and he's always asking people,
Wow.
okay, I got to verify your credit. Have you ever lived on this street? Have you lived on
Yes,
465 Apple Way, whatever, and having to do that stuff. So it's cool seeing that from the information technology standpoint, and also as financial, and I can see how those can be merged together, because you got to have the technology to know if somebody's account is getting hacked or whatever, but you also have
exactly.
to have the information and see if that's, to let the right person know that, hey, this is happening to your stuff or whatever it may be.
Verify
So
always, never trust ever. Zero trust. We verify. Even your mom, she used your social, but how do we know that she's approved to use your social security? That's what we do. That's like my world. Like verification, making sure people are who they are, and if they're not, then we gotta have a different conversation. So I love it. I love it.
you're a big fan of two-way authentication, huh?
Multi-factor, yes. I want to know. I have to know who you are. Even if you sit next to me, I don't know. I want to know who you are getting access to this thing, because it can be catastrophic. It only takes, in cybersecurity, also, we have to be right all the time. Our adversary only needs to strike gold one time, and they can take down an entire system, an entire organization, and it can also lose to the loss of services. For example, we had a healthcare cyber hearing on the Hill last year. It was my very first hearing that I helped, staff, and there was a death resulting from a cyber security attack, because I believe we were talking
Wow.
about a European case, and that was because the systems, they were hacked, and then they had to transport the patient to another facility that was very far away, and the patient died in transit. So no, an actual cyber attack didn't kill the patient, right? But loss of services and disruptions to services absolutely will. And so we are so serious and vigilant about what we do, because someone only has to get lucky once to totally turn our worlds
Mm.
upside down, and it can result in a loss of life. It can happen during surgery. It's very important. It can happen during a dive. What if we can't have, we have no transmission, no way to connect? That's it for us. When we're down there, you can't ascend, you're gonna get the bends. You can't just hop out, you just can't
Hmm.
hop and float to the surface. You're dead. So we have to always be planning, like I said with diving, we never dive alone. We always plan our dives. In cybersecurity, we always are focused on building resilient plans. We are going to be attacked. Like, if you have anything of value, you should be getting attacked. because you have something of value, but you should make it so hard. And every single time, if an attack happens, because it's going to happen, it should not cripple you to where it destroys everything. Everybody gets your patient data. You can't recover financially. That is what we are dealing with, and it's very critical now more than ever. You've probably gotten an email like, "Hey, we've experienced a data breach," or that's a norm now. That's a norm now. And unfortunately, many are becoming desensitized to it. We can't have that. That is why we always plan. We're always building these resilience plans. We have, our drills. So like a disaster recovery drill or tabletop exercises, we're always planning because we know our adversary is always planning or always watching. We are a very public country. We love to talk. We have LinkedIn. Look, I have LinkedIn, but we're sharing now. People are looking for the easiest path of least resistance. And so we come together to make sure that we constantly assess the threat landscape, the cyber threat landscape, even the physical and digital worlds, which is why I love marine science and the opportunities here for technologists to come in cyber, because we understand the physical world and the digital world. We can come together to help build solutions because one impacts the other. Like you mentioned with your dad, he has to talk to people and verify you are you, right? We have to have like probably a physical ID to show Social Security, state ID, driver's license to verify you when we're going into the digital space to navigate and use people's information and their virtual, their digital identity too. It matters so much. We're always planning. We're always thinking. We're thinking like the adversary, and trying to be a step ahead so that we don't crumble when they finally get their W. That's what we do.
When you're getting a text verification code on your phone, you got to blame Jasmine. She's the one having to send it to you
Yes,
guys.
it's me.
You got to
No, no,
blame
no.
her.
No, but never answer it. Never answer it. And I always tell people, call your bank. Call your bank. Call someone to verify and to make sure, because you don't know. The sophisticated attacks are getting better. And you know what? It's becoming easier because we put everything out there. We put everything out there. Our birthday, our dog's name. Someone can literally put those two together and say, my dog's name is Love. So Love, year I was born, 1992. And that could be my password. It's so easy. It's so easy. But we can't live in fear. We have to educate each other. And like I said, we have to have interdisciplinary support, work with one another so that we can teach each other best practices so that we remain safe together. This is Cybersecurity Awareness Month too. So October is. And so these are the things we come together, science, art, medicine, whatever, healthcare, whatever it is, to help make our country more resilient, ourselves more resilient, and most of all, our communities more resilient, whether people are technical, quote unquote, or not,
Okay, I really appreciate that. I'm about to go change the password on my Bank of America thing, like as soon
Yes,
as we're
change
done with
it.
this, to make sure
Change it.
it's right. Because now I'm scared. I want to make sure I have all my money. So yeah. So I have a more serious question for you, and I'm really excited to hear you answer this. I've never heard anyone, no one on the podcast so far has talked about this, and I'm really excited to hear from someone else's perspective. But I know you talked about your experience as a queer woman in science and just in life in general, and I'd love to just give you the floor to speak about that. I'm not an expert. I have a gay uncle I love very dearly, but I want to know more about this. And I'm not even trying to joke. Like, I want to know more about this and how this
Yeah.
affects you in your everyday life and work and all that. So go ahead, tell us all, educate us all on this.
Yes. So if you can see me or if you're watching, I'm what you would call like a feminine presenting woman, right? So by default, most people don't see me as a lesbian. Like people they don't look at me and think, because I don't look quote unquote like what society says like that will look like, right? So that is the first step of this. So when I go into a room and, sometimes in the past, if it was like more male dominated and, we deal with the things sometimes we deal with as women, especially in these spaces where we were not once a majority in, we barely are getting above like 1% sometimes in these rooms. And, people, like maybe they hit on you or whatever it would be. And then they find out who you are. It's a shock. Most people are very shocked when they find out. I'm open. I live freely. I am who I am every day. But most people just rule you out for being a part of a community based on what you look like. And so sometimes it's very hard when you feel like you kind of don't belong already, like in certain fields, and especially when I was coming in to my field, like you can feel like you don't belong because you have all these identities, but there's also identity you have that people are automatically like just shocked that you are that, and I feel that I don't really even meet I have to go to conferences if I want to meet other queer women, and I have to go to conferences to really find them. I have a very good friend. She is a very decorated nurse, and another one that is a surgeon. Okay, both queer women, and we both are feminine presenting, and we all experience the same thing. People think, oh, maybe she's just gay for a fad, or that's not this. She doesn't look gay, or like what? But it's important for us to do that, because when we start talking about things such as like in artificial intelligence and algorithmic bias and wanting to have agency on things and just different things in our field, our experience as a person of the LGBT community matters when these systems are impacting the lives of diverse people, like someone that is LGBTQ. You can't assume that I have a husband. People do ask, okay, oh, where's your husband? Or I don't have a husband, and I have a wife, you know what I mean? Like, people, it takes a lot of accepting, because you're in a space where really you're an anomaly sometimes. You may be the only, and I talk a lot about that, but it impacts you because you're like, I can never belong. Like, sometimes you feel like you never fit in. Like, I don't look gay enough, right? I'm already Black, Afro-Latino, whatever you want to call it. Then I don't look gay enough, and then I this, and then I like, when do I ever can just be me? And I make a commitment every day to just be me. And when people do, like I said, people are usually surprised, but I can't not be who I am, because I know who I am does play a role in how I can bring visibility to my community. They are not a lot of technologists that I meet, especially once I know that they are part of the LGBTQIA plus community, that even feel like they could belong because of who they are. They may dress differently, like they may present more masculine, for example, as a woman, or, and then they get treated differently. So it does matter, especially when you are visibly looking like you belong to a community. But we belong here, and we have to be here because of how we see the world, how we navigate things does impact us. And so I feel like as a queer woman, it makes me sad sometimes when people are still shocked, because it makes me see that it's not a norm still. But I also feel like it shouldn't be tokenized. And what I love is I'm seeing more applications for conferences in my field, specifically looking to have more presence for LGBTQIA, with that scholarships or building communities of practice and different levels of trust circles. I love seeing that. I saw Lesbians Who Tech. I spoke at their Pride Summit last year, and I see that they're building an AI coalition to help reduce the bias in the systems that are being built. So we are rising, like, we're powerful, but we still are growing. We are still getting support. And, when you have this alternative lifestyle, then you have like sub levels of acceptance. So someone may want to accept you, but it may go against their personal belief or something. They may tolerate you. And it's sad when you have your peers that are, going into like very high levels of medicine, science, math, engineering, but they're only being tolerated. That is very hurtful, and we are still dealing with that. Myself, like I said, I try to build support and encouragement, because while I have experienced that, I'm into the side of now where I can open doors and opportunities to help reduce that, so people can feel welcome. And as you know, like when you're pursuing like very technical discipline science, you're studying and things, the last thing you need on your heart is like, I'm doing all this work and then no one's going to care, just for the simple fact is that I'm Black or I'm gay or I'm whatever I am. They're not even going to give me a chance to see that. And I don't want any more of that. And I can't do it all on my own, which is why I try to partner with others. But it does hurt, and it does impact the work. And imagine how far we can be as society if we go beyond tolerance. We challenge ourselves to go beyond tolerance. Imagine what we can do when people feel psychologically safe to show up as they are, bring the science, bring the innovations, the research that they have, but they are supported in who they are. They're not just tolerated. And so that has been my experience, trying to go and have people see beyond tolerance. I usually don't even lead with that. Like, hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm gay. They usually find out after, and then they're like, oh, you're gay. I also have a disability. I'm a partial amputee. Most people don't know that. So when they're like, oh, you did that? Like, I'm missing like 2 fingers on my right hand, So they're like, oh, you did that? Like, I didn't know disabled people that are differently able can do that. It changes people's thought, because it had nothing to do with my brain or my heart or my passion. It's the same thing about being a lesbian, openly gay woman in this field, an openly gay Black woman in this field, and you know how we can be about that. And so but it really does impact how I'm able to just remove those labels and show up just as Jasmine and unapologetically me, and help others that are still struggling, the initial impacts of seeing like, okay, like this is how it is, and bringing us up together for the future of humanity. And that's what ultimately matters.
Wow, I mean, that was wonderful. I have so many questions based off of what you just said, and please correct me if I say anything that's wrong or anything, because I'm just
No,
like I
no.
said, I'm just wondering. I seriously wonder. So, first of all, talk about being a partial amputee. If you're willing to share that story and what had happened or anything like that, that would be awesome because we may have people listening who have something like that happen to them as well. And then also, I was wondering about the difference between queer and gay. I've heard people use those terms. I'm not sure if they're changeable or what the difference is, and I just want to know more about that community and those different kind of things because I see, especially at conferences, I'm meeting more people who are LGBT, and even I meet people who are like in polyamorous relationships, different kind of things like that that I'd never known before, and I want to
Mhm.
just know more about how these kind of things work from people who are actually in these who actually experience this versus just looking it up online.
Yeah, so I would define, and we all kind of honestly have our own definitions, okay? But I would define queer, it's just like an umbrella term, right? And so that can encompass being lesbian, being gay. There's so many, there's so many aspects of it. So really, it's just an umbrella term. Usually, I would just say like I'm a lesbian, and honestly, I say I'm gay too, even though gay is usually associated with a male. Like I just say like yes, I'm a gay person. Like if someone asks like, "Are you gay?" Yes, I am. So for me, I don't really get technical, but I know in my community there are people that really, I want to show their respect, and they really do. So, like I said, queer. Most people say it's an umbrella term. But for me, like yes, traditionally gay would be associated usually with men, but I just say I am who I am. Like this, gay, lesbian, but there is a difference. Some people do get very sensitive about that. I try to respect that, but usually I'll say like, yes, I'm an open lesbian woman. Like that's like kind of how I usually phrase it. And then as far as me becoming an amputee, yes. So I actually had cancer. I had a rare cancer. It's called a rhabdomyosarcoma, and so it affects the muscles. It is not metabolic, so really it can go undetected because it's not metabolic. So I didn't get sick. Like that. I just had like a tumor grow, and it was like, oh my god, like I have a tumor. And I went through the whole phase. I lost my hair. I went through cancer. And last year, I actually got an award from the SANS Institute, and I kind of shared about this in my speech. But my entire career getting back into cyber was spent in a cancer hospital. So I had nothing to do. I had never time on my hands to study, research, learn, do everything, because I was in that cancer hospital. I had nothing to do every time I was getting my treatments. But I became a partial amputee. It was like the first case of its kind, basically. And so I lost my fingers, and up on my upper right arm was my upper left arm. Sorry, the site. If you see, I have a scar here, but it became the replacement for my hand. So my upper left arm is now my hand. So how science has advanced. And so I have a huge medical team. I have a plastic surgeon. He's awesome at the Ohio State University. My oncologist, my orthopedic oncologist, an entire team that made it possible for me to be restored because they knew I love to hike, I love to swim, I love to get. I'm an outdoors girl, okay, and they wanted me to have no disruptions in my life as a 20-something woman going through such a catastrophe. Right? They wanted me to still live, and so I went through that. I can get fit for prosthetics and just so many different things, but I went through that. And it resulted in me becoming a partial amputee. I have basically the use of 7 strong fingers, and then the 2 fingers are gone, and then I have one that my ring finger, my right hand, that is basically bolted in place because again I lost a lot of nerves and stuff when they were removing the cancer and everything. I've been cancer free for 2 years. As of May 2nd of this year, I made the 2-year mark. So I'm out of the high risk period. I'm still living, I'm doing my thing. But during that time, I learned a lot about the world. I got a better appreciation of, first of all, how short life is and why we need to just go do your thing. Like if you're a black nerd, right, just go do it. Like who cares? Like I'm gay. Look, I don't even have no fingers. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm like rehabilitating. And with diving, we have our hand signals and stuff. I'm having to learn that in a new way because I don't have them. So it's just like learning life in a new way in such a short period of time really taught me about how much we actually can do and how much often we limit ourselves, but how short life can be and why we need to pursue our dreams unapologetically. Like, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. That's how I live now. Like, if I want to do it, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. But it taught me a lot about just how strong we are in our heart, and we shouldn't have to go through a catastrophe to like kind of see that. Sometimes we should just like wake up and own it, like, like, I'm a badass, like, I can do this thing. And I remember like one of my mentors was like, before I was going to the hill, she's like, "You're badass. Like, you're leaving the cancer." Like, I was going through maintenance chemotherapy before I moved to DC last year. And November 10th
Wow.
of 2022 was my last day of maintenance chemotherapy. And then I moved to the hill on January 7th to do this work. My first hearing was a healthcare cyber hearing, like in March of last year. So it was like my world came together, but I understood and could care so much about different areas, different people, the life of a doctor, like so many things because of my hardship, and I would say a tragedy. But now I can use that to like learn new hand signals in diving. They may be someone that dives and they may have lost an arm, right? Or been born without an arm. And now we can figure out how to do signals that can help those that are differently abled or missing a leg, whatever it is. That's also why I love marine science, because like in cyber sometimes, like, we got to make sure, like, I got to make sure I'm accountable for what I know in my system and making sure. But in marine science and diving and things, we don't do it alone. We have a partner. We have a research partner. We going out to that water. If you diving by yourself, you may be, I don't know, award winning. So I am not diving by myself. So like, I'm not doing that. So we build community, and that's what really I love. That I miss it so much. We have a community in cyber too, but it's a different form of community because life really depends on us being in that water together, us, anything can happen, and we just can't immediately go. If I'm in cyber, I'm be having a catastrophe, I may be opening up the door and can go in my car and just woosah. But when I'm underwater, it's just me and you down there. It's just me and you down there, and we have to love each other enough. Even though we don't like each other after that, we gotta love each other enough to be able to save each other's lives immediately. So it just showed me, like, in my life, having my life saved, I wanted, what my doctor, I always tell my doctors, thank you, because you show me what it means when you love your field, to go above and beyond. You don't have to do certain things, but you did it for me. Like I said, I was the very first case they had similar to what I had. And now my tumor and my fingers are in the lab that can be used for research, because the type of cancer I had was really a pediatric cancer, which was crazy that I got it later in adulthood. And so they're studying it, and it can help save
Wow.
children's lives. So we never know how, like, our hardship, our struggle is for a bigger purpose. And now, like, that I'm at the end of that, and some of my best, most impactful work was doing during when I was sick. Okay, when I was like bedridden, some of my best work was done during that. Now that I have my health and things, like, why shouldn't I go hard in my field and also contribute to another field to help bring us together? And hopefully people can see my story, and like, a doctor that is interested in marine science can say, hey, like, I can go here and help learn about the conditions and help support the health and well-being of divers and sailors, and doing things on the vessel. Like, that's what I want for people to see with my story. Like, wow, like, look at what you know now from your direct experience, and like, you can go somewhere and bring that to any place. And so, yeah, that's my story.
Wow, I mean, I'm inspired right now. I want to give you like a handshake and a hug through the camera. I mean,
Hug.
that's so that's so wonderful. You saying how you got your best work done when you were almost at one of your lowest points. I think that can be very inspiring to a lot of people, because I don't think a lot of people understand that hidden strength that they have, especially when things are going bad, or you might be so used to things going a certain way, and then they get turned upside down. You have no plan. And I feel like some people can peter out because of, not necessarily because of their weakness or whatever, but they just weren't prepared and don't know how strong they can actually be. But you, to be a living, representation of that. I mean, you're like, hey, my fingers are up in a hallway somewhere. People are looking at it, poking at it, and it's used to save
Yeah.
people's lives. Like, a part of me is working and I'm not even here. Like, this is great. And having that
Oh,
kind of that kind of that kind of perspective in that, instead of being, oh, I lost my fingers, like, damn, like, I need a hook hand, like all this other stuff. It's,
hmm.
you're happy, and I'm really happy for you in that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank
And I mean, you
you.
talked a
Thank
bit,
you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you talked a bit about nerdiness and all that, but what makes you a nerd? I know, and how does that let you innovate your field and just enjoy yourself and be your wonderful, bubbly self? Tell me.
You know, I used to take that as an offense. When I was growing up, I was really, like, really shy. Like, even what I do now for work, me and my mom laugh, and I'm like, I used to hate. I remember once when I was younger, I had to sing at church, and we were in church choir. Everybody got to sing, and I, like, almost passed out. I couldn't even believe, like, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I grew up very, very, very shy, like almost debilitating social anxiety. So it turned me into a nerd because I had nothing to do but beg my mom for books. I would just isolate my room, just do crafts, read books. I was watching, this is back in the 90s, like, watching Sailor Moon and just do all of these things. And I'm like, okay, I'm in my shell, I'm this. And a lot of us, like, that even could say we're nerds, a lot of us can kind of have a similar story. Like, we usually were sheltered. We had, like, really maybe weird hobbies to others that, like, why do you do that? Or, oh, my favorite, black people don't do that. Like, no,
Oh
but
yeah,
they don't
yeah,
do
yeah.
that. So it just made you an outcast just by default. And so then I thought about it, like, the reason why I'm able to study like I do, learn something new like I do, is because that's all I had. That's when I felt secure. That's where I felt safe, was in a book when I was growing up. That's where I felt like I wouldn't get bullied if, I could just write a paper and learn some words. You know what I mean? Like, all the things that were shamed, growing up with kids can be very mean. So growing up, and then how I would say I'm a nerd now is I love to learn. If you know me, like, even in my personal life, my LinkedIn, people in my network, I am always exploring something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's something that a woman shouldn't do, a gay person shouldn't do, a black person doesn't do. Like, that's where I'm at. And so when I started finding my people, and then they were calling each other nerds, I'm like, hey, maybe I'm a nerd too. Maybe I'm a nerd for wanting to go and, become a scientist and do this crazy thing. Like, I literally graduated my master's last November, and for me to just be crazy enough to go to get my master's of professional science and be preparing for that, and, like, my love for learning is making me do that. It's crazy, crazy thing. And I like daring to be crazy. And a lot of nerds, they get a lot of flack, but they dare to be crazy because they love what they do. They will obsess. Like, you talked about R and, Python and everything that we rely on. You were willing to obsess over something crazy. And I think that's really cool. And I think a lot of things that is in the past, everybody wants to do cyber and computer science and engineering. In the past, that wasn't cool. Like, that was like, why would you want to do that? Like, who does that? Even with black people, like, sometimes we're not a monolith, by the way, but sometimes stereotypically we can be like, we don't do that. You get more support when you want to go play a sport sometimes than actually want to become like a biochemist. And so I feel that I was placed as a nerd. I was placed as Jasmine. And I also was a late bloomer. So I had played the whole, like, the stereotypical, like, glasses or whatever people think. I have my glasses. I was just so awkward. Like, I had the whole thing going on. And then once I realized, like, hey, like, I'm actually pretty freaking cool. Like, I'm going to step into myself. And then I became, into my womanhood. And now that I am now, I embrace it, because usually nerds, the things you're associated with in the past that were like uncool, now you're sought after. Now you can research. You have a lot of discipline. You're emotionally intelligent. You actually know what it feels like to treat others well, because a lot of us have been bullied. Like, you can bring that to a field and help humanize what we do. Bring the human element always to what we do. Even when we weren't cool, we actually got to sit back and observe all of our life spent on the sideline. Now we making plays. So now we can actually, bring something, because we weren't always just talking, or weren't always in the spotlight. We got to observe. And so now, that's even in my work now, I can observe and I can research, and I actually can, like, see people, when you weren't seeing a lot, now you can actually see people. And I think that's what I love most about collaborating in my work, and, like, yeah, being a nerd. Those are all, like, now my strengths.
So you mentioned Sailor Moon. Is there any other type anime or different kind of franchises or nerdy stuff that you're into? Because I'm sure people want to know about it.
Yeah, so I guess these are more like commercial style. And I don't know if you would call it anime. I don't even know, but I'm a huge Inuyasha fan. I'm a huge Samurai Jack fan. And I also love Crayon Shin-chan. I know that's crazy, but I love, like, funnies. I have, like, dark humor, so I love that. There's a few others that I like. I like Attack on Titan. Just a lot of different
Ooh,
things.
me
I
too.
love Cowboy Bebop. So there's just so many that, like, there's a range, but I still, like, every Saturday I still watch cartoons. Like, I was watching Totally Spies yesterday, like, laying in bed just watching Totally Spies. So I love, like, all forms of art. Actually, when I lived in Asia, so I lived in Korea for a year, I lived in Thailand for a year. And when I lived out there, my biggest regret is that I didn't go to Japan. It literally is a hop, skip, and a jump to Japan. Like, some of my coworkers used to go to Japan for the weekend, and I'm like, how is it that I didn't go to Japan? Like, in the 90s, we grew up, like, Hello Kitty, all of that. We grew up with that, Doraemon, all of that. And I'm like, man, missed opportunity when I was living there for so long. And didn't get to go to the place that I used to just dream about as a kid. And I used to actually say as a kid, like, I can't go there. Like, what? We don't go out there. So now it's like, I still, those are my hidden passions. But now that I'm an adult and I can do that, that Japan is definitely on my list, and I want to have the full experience. But those are the comics that I love. Like, I love comics. Oh, and I also am a big DC fan. So shout out to
Oh,
Marvel. My dad introduced me. Oh, the origin of all of this is my dad introduced me to X-Men when I was young. We used to watch
love
cartoons, and
X-Men.
my dad he introduced, that was my first introduction to, my dad collects comic books and everything. So that was my first introduction into like the comic book world. And so I have like original Black Panther comic books, like, I have all that.
Whoa.
So the original stories of like Storm and Wolverine and things like that. The Joker is my favorite character. Two-Faced, Harvey Dent. So like my dad actually introduced me to that. We used to fight and play Ninja Turtles. He actually, like, I had as much Barbie stuff. I had like toy, like figurines, and I had like equal amount. So I guess that helped in hindsight. But yeah, that was my introduction to all of that.
That's really cool. That's something me and my dad have always really bonded on. I mean, just watching Ben 10, different types of, like, even now we still watch cartoons together, all kinds of stuff. So I totally understand. Like, he's helping me finish my PS2 games and I'm a little kid. So I mean, I watch cartoons and all that right now because it makes me still feel close to my dad. It's something that's very important to me. Like, I damn near don't even want to watch live action stuff unless it's animals and real. Like, that's the only real life thing I really want to watch is animals. Never people just standing in
Exactly.
front of a camera talking. I know we're doing that right now, but I never want to watch it on my own.
Exactly.
So I know you have this great career in technology. How did you decide to marry that into marine science and then all these different things together? How and what got you into marine science in the first place?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I used to dive a lot and just snorkel and go on different trips. And I always felt like, what would happen if one day this wasn't available? Like, what would make this not available? What would make a vessel not able to sail? What would make, like a diver, if they needed to do research to actually make sure that this is an approved site for us to be island hopping or whatever we're doing? And I always thought about that, and I thought, and like actually like wrote it out and mapped it out. I said, okay, I know about critical infrastructure. I know about all of these things, and at a high level, I hear about if there's a maritime issue, if there's anything going on. Actually, the center that I worked for, a part of our jurisdiction was the Coast Guard. So I got to hear a lot about issues impacting the Coast Guard and just so many different things. And so I thought about it like, okay, I have this secret hobby that nobody knows about, and I'm doing this. But also, if there's a way in my field, and I really didn't know how to connect it. Quite honestly, how do I do this? How do I find a firm or a company or wherever I could work, or even an academic institution? So like now I'm preparing my letters to submit with my grad school applications and everything. But it really took a lot for me to find that, to like comb through and research. And then once I found it, I said, okay, I can go into helping build resilient systems and helping implement plans and do research. Also, the policy aspect. I love policy. I love tech policy. I love it. I can do that here. Right. So at a general level, I'm doing all these things. I'm doing tech policy. We're talking about AI, cyber, biosecurity. But I can also do this in marine science. And there is a specific need. And I noticed a lot of the curriculum, they focus a lot on data. And I'm sure that, like how to get the data, how to the data life cycle and everything. But I didn't really see a strong option for information security and technology. And all of the academic advisors I've been partnering with have been like, dude, like you need to come do this because you can help show that and build out your research for this. And then maybe that can turn into a sub program or whatever for the university. But I saw that there was a gap, and I said, okay, this is an opportunity to go in and to start doing research. So, with BIMS, hopefully, like I said, I'm so excited. It's like an honor to be able to talk to more scientists to understand the need and, how you all see cybersecurity, how you all see technology security, and how we can partner so that me with my education and experience could find gaps to help from the policy level. I know how to interact. I know how to write policy. I'm constantly growing in that area, but also how to learn a science. Like now I have to buckle down and like learn how to speak the language and learn more beyond being a hobbyist. And so that is how I got in. I'm so excited. I actually, like, I really prayed about it. And I asked, I said, God, like kind of show me like how big it can get here. Like show me actually the gaps and areas that I can come and just be an addition to such an amazing community. And like I said, it's not really a common subject. Like I think a lot of people, they know about diving, they're gonna snorkel, they're gonna go on their cruise, or they're gonna go on their vacation, they're gonna do it. But what does it take to make it happen? What is a fisherman's life?
Mm.
What struggles do they go through? I would always stay and I would ask people. The last trip I went on, me and the captain, we were talking, as we were sailing, and I really asked him, I said, like, what does it take for you to come and to make these things safe, and what do you need from a technical standpoint? And we actually had a conversation. And so I was doing that informally, and I'm like, okay, now I need to make it official. I need to put a ring on it. Now I need to make it official, and I need to go and further my education. And I thought about it like, I know the cry of happiness I did when I finished my master's last year, and I'm like, master's of professional science, like, dude, you just got to do it. Like, you got to do it. And so, but I need a community to do this, which is why, like I said, BIMS is just such a blessing to me. And I'm so grateful for Rob for introducing me, because I didn't even know it was possible in such a way. And to see that everyone in BIMS and what they're doing, I'm like, I would love to come in from an entirely different field. But again, look, you study R. Look, I know about R, Python. We are so similar in so many ways. I want to build that connection and then bring that out in my own way, going back into my field and supporting and bringing visibility and hopefully more support into the marine science community at large globally.
Okay. I want to switch gears for a second, and I have a question for you. What figures in the queer community have inspired you and influenced your path to doing what you're doing now? I want to hear like your Mount Rushmore, if you will.
Honestly, I don't even have like a Mount Rushmore of that. What I will say is, like, the community as a whole will be my Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
When I saw others living their truth, like, and I'm just talking about in the queer community, when I saw others living their truth and they were in my field, and that's at conferences, and it just was like, this is how life can be. Like, if you decide to step out and live. And I'm so grateful for those, like, even in the drag community, going to drag shows, and everyone's hyping each other up and just celebrating each other. When I was on the Hill, a lot of my peers were queer. Like, people would be surprised. Like, there's so many people. And so those people living their truth and standing up and advocating for our rights and just so many things, they are my Mount Rushmore, my entire community. But one person I would add is my former boss. She actually is my biggest advocate. She's an openly gay woman. She has a wife. She has, they have a beautiful family, and she is the one who, she lives who she is. She is who she is, and she would be Sarah. She would be on my Mount Rushmore. She is amazing. And I was like, man, I want to be open like that. I want to be like that. Like, that's a boss. Like, that's cool shit. I felt when I met her, and she became my boss, and she became one of my biggest supporters and reasons why I was able to go to Capitol Hill and just do so many things. She brought me into rooms and just so many things, like, and she was who she was. So her.
She's your Washington.
Yes. Don't make me tear up, but she's she's my Washington. Yes, I love her so much. And I wish everybody had that. It's not easy, especially if, like I said, the trans community, they're going through a lot of things. Just it's really hard to be different still. Like, it may be like we have pride, we may have a lot of things, but it is not a lot of things. Like, even with marine science, you may think it's a norm, or you may like hear this podcast, you may see we exist, but that doesn't mean we feel we exist every day. No matter how many smiles, whatever, that doesn't mean that we feel we exist and we matter, and that we feel that we can still show up and be safe and have that support as another person that is, I guess you would say maybe heteronormative, which is no problem, but they we have to think about so many ways of how we're going to show up. You have to think like, okay, am I gonna mention that I have a wife or a girlfriend? Am I gonna mention that I'm missing? Do I say hi? Like when people shake my hand, they're always like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't apologize. Like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, so like I have to figure out like which thing am I gonna wear today? Is it gonna be the black girl, the token black girl, and have to dispel that? Is it gonna be the gay woman and have to dispel that? Like, which one? It's so many hats, and I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm gonna be free. I'm who I am, and that is my Mount Rushmore. Those that are responsible for helping me assess myself, get real myself, so that I can live freely and see and show others that they can do the same.
It's like being a minority inside of a minority inside of a
It's
minority inside
like
of another minority.
it's like the Twilight Zone of like, dude, I'm multiple minorities. Like, dude, like, come on, you know? And even
Which
that
one
word
do I pick today?
minority, yeah, like, which one do I pick today? Am I just gonna be like, you know, like, which one is it? Which struggle, right? Which struggle? And something has to change. You know, something has to change because it really does impact how you go into your work. If you're gonna show up with your head down or your head up, it does. And I see so many young people coming into the field, you know, in the tech industry, and it's like they have the brain. You can learn anything, but the courage, the things on the inside, is why we don't have more. And they from the gate they're being shown that they don't matter. You know, they from the gate they're being shown they got to choose this disability or this whatever they have. They have to choose that in order to enter. You know, they're just going to be the token. They just got in based on that. We still are going through that. So I see a lot of people enter rooms, even the rooms I'm in, you know, they have their head down automatically. And I don't like that. And I want to hopefully my story and others, especially in the queer community, especially being, you know, women in this field and coming in, I want to see when people come in with their head lifted, but that means we have to be ready to support them and just extend our arms to them as a community, because humanity depends on it, and definitely science, technology, innovation. It doesn't happen just with these tools. Like a chat GPT is not self-governed, right? You need people to do this. And they need to be empowered to come in doing it.
So you talked a bit about tokenism right there. What challenges have you faced yourself by being a symbolic only, like that black girl in the room? And how have those kind of experiences driven your ambitions? I mean, I know myself seeing like being a DEI hire and all that kind of stuff. It's like, come on, man, I'm better than that. I'm not just a good black
Yes.
guy. I'm good at this.
Yes, absolutely. Like that good, that's a word. But so, and fun fact, so when I re-entered my field, I took a career break, and I was a flight attendant for 3.5 years. And I always tell the
Oh,
story
wow.
to people. Yeah, I always tell the story, and I say, when I was a flight attendant, I used to study in the back of the plane. I used to study on the crew vans, going to the airport, going to our overnights, and because I knew I was preparing and going back into my field, right? And I remember one time I was going to the airport. I think we were in Omaha, coming back to Charlotte, and the captain was like, "Oh, like, what are you studying?" I was like, "Yeah, hopefully we can get in. Hopefully we don't have any delays today." He was like, "Oh, what are you studying?" And I'm like, he was like, I was like, what did I say? I think at that time I was studying, it wasn't data structures and algorithms, but it was something along that. Like, I think maybe it wasn't IT 101, but it was something along that. And he was like, "Oh," and I was like, "What?" And I'm like done up. I'm like flight attendant, I have my hair, when I was a flight attendant, look, like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Okay. So he looking at me and he was like, "Oh, I thought you might have been studying to be an actress or something." And I was just like, what? He couldn't even imagine me like studying what I was studying. Like his jaw dropped. And I noticed the conversation changed, and it was like, I think it was really harmless. Like, he just figured like, "Oh girl, I thought you was, you all glammed up, you got the makeup. I thought you was looking at that, and I thought about that. Like, wow, is this going to be what I encounter in my field? Like, I love all those things, right? But do I have to change that to people to even think that maybe I'm associated? And then they brought me higher. What actually does a technologist look like? Who says that? And so from then, the tokenism, or like people automatically, like I've been in rooms where I was at the level of my manager, my boss, whatever, and then you have some very high ranking people come into the room, or they are C-suite or whoever, and they come in and they see you there, right? One time my boss, he's actually on his way to come to meet me, and we had these stakeholders in the room, and like I was sitting there and I'm like, "Oh, hi, good morning," he's on his way, whatever, and I'm sitting there, and I remember the look I got was like, "Oh, like, oh, you're Jasmine?" I was wearing like a cheetah print shirt and I had on some pink earrings, right? And right, in a very high place, okay? And so I remember the look. And then when we ended the meeting and I was able to, I was able to have that conversation, right? I had that brain. I was able to hold myself. Then it changed. oh, can we work with you? Like, oh, are you interested in this? Like, wow, can you teach us more about this? Like, we're trying to expand our, our women, bringing women into cyber in our company. Oh, it changed. But you initially saw me as, oh, just probably some black girl, like she, young black girl, like she got the makeup, she's not in a traditional suit, it's no shade either. I was just who I am. And it was like, wow, this is still happening. And I really encourage those that don't change who you are. Don't take off that cheetah shirt or whatever you got. Read the room, know where you are, right? There's a time and place for everything. But if who you are is essential to you showing up and you have to remove any piece of that, you'll never be able, you will really, you'll crash out. You will be a crash out. You won't ever be able to go high because you're always going to be somebody's token. Those people, their views didn't change. They're going to go into another room. Another black person is going to be there. They might think the same thing. It might be a black man with dreads or tats, right? You're never going to change that. All you can do is show like what happens when you make quick assumptions. And I was actually in a position to make influence on things that they wanted. But they initially, and did I hold that against them? No, because it's just the society we're in. But a lot of people, like in our communities, especially with women, we talk about these and they hurt. Was I hurt that day? Because I was like, damn, it's still happening. It was when I was a flight attendant, it happened, years later, it's still happening. And I'm never going to be enough. And I made peace with that. I'm never going to be enough for a lot of people. I'm not, I don't look like I'm old money, if you will. Like, I don't look like I'm this. Some people may think I don't even talk right. You know what I mean? But I got that drive. I had that passion. I will work. I will study. I will give. I can relate to so many people. And that's my strength. And maybe I don't work out in your environment. Maybe I don't look the part for you, but I will still do what I came here to do. I love what I do. I don't have to do cyber. I get to do cyber, right? I get to do policy. I get to do marine science, and I get to do it just as I am, as I look, and I love myself. So if that's a problem with you, nice knowing you. See you on the road, but I'm not going to remove pieces of myself. No more. And so I hope others see that, because you're going to be the token. Look, we're having with affirmative action. Like, it's going to be only worse. But I promise you, if you choose to still show up as you are, it's going to be hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but you will meet the people for you. And now the people I have in my life, the organizations I'm a part of, those that I'm supporting, even past management, even in that situation, they were definitely for me and they didn't play about me. You will meet people that feel that way. It's not only me. You're going to meet those same people just as long as you commit to showing up, because if you remove a part of you, it's going to impact how you can research when you go home and you're sad about not being authentically you. One day you're going to slip. One day you're going to have to, the mask going to come off one day. And so why not just show up every day as you are?
Wow, I think that's a very powerful statement. So how did taking a break from your field, you said you were doing 3 years as a flight attendant, how did that change your perspective on things and even give you time to, how did that like change how you felt about yourself? Because for me personally, I just finished school and I'm looking for a job, and it's been tough to like trying to find a job fresh out of school, and I'm planning on taking time before I go get my PhD, and I'm feeling that gap year, and I'm feeling already different, and like I've been able to grow some. How was that experience for you, and why did you decide to take that break?
Actually, I took the break because I was going to Boston University, the Met, and I was studying. I actually started looking into like data science and things like that on my field. That was the first attempt at my master's. And so I had to drop out. Like, listen, they told me you have to choose between school and work. I thought they was like, oh, you just hyping yourself up. They were serious. So I had to choose like between school and work. And then I was crashing out. So I was like, listen, I'm studying. I'm working 10 hours a day. I was doing tech support. I'm like, man, I'm working 10 hours, 12 hours a day sometimes, mandatory overtime. I'm trying to do school. Like, dude, like I'm crashing out. Like, why am I even doing this? And so I got an opportunity. One of my friends was like, hey, you can just come apply on my job. Like, you can be a flight attendant. So, I was like, hey, I was already traveling. I was like, I can have some downtime or flexibility with my schedule. That was a lie, because you're going to work. Flight attendants work. Okay. And so I did that. And through that time, I just said, I'm going to take this time. I gave myself a time limit. And actually, the person that recruited me, she knows who she is. She told me, if you have a dream, you give yourself a time limit of being here. Use this time for what you need it, and then you go back and do what you believe you were called to do. She literally said that to me, and so I said, okay, she knows something that I don't. So I did that, and throughout those years, I was studying. I was paying for courses individually. I would even passenger. It was like it's an alignment. When something's for you, it's for you. I would meet passengers that they would be in tech or they would have some interest, and it would spark a conversation, and they would encourage me, refer me to a class, like whatever it was, and they were like helping me, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. Then I reapplied to grad school. I got in and I started, getting back into my field. And yeah, that's pretty much how that was. But advice I would give is it can feel shaky. In our country, we don't have, usually abroad, I learned when I was living abroad, taking a gap year is a thing. Like people, it's actually called a gap year. Like people take a sabbatical. It's a thing. We don't really have that culturally here. Please take that, because you will find yourself. Like you will find ideas. Like the things that I'm doing now are when I was there. Things that I learned about security. When you're a flight attendant, your top priority is security. It is being able to answer in the call of emergency at any time of the day, being resilient, identifying potential adversaries, harms. That never changed when I entered cyber. That is how people always ask me how you get your ideas, how you're always coming up with this stuff, because I done lived. Take that time to live, to explore yourself, to go through the emotions. The job will come, like the opportunity will come, and it will be actually more in sync with what you need, because it's not like I'm rushing to just do this. And I'm still doing that, but that's a skill I built in those 3.5 years. Really, that was a skill I built. Patience, the right things. When I left the field, when I left being a flight attendant, my first job, it was like a seamless thing. I only told them I'm going back to grad school. I started grad school in September 2021. And so this is like May of 2021 when I started, re-entered the field. And I remember when they were interviewing me, they were like, so what's your interest? I said, to be honest, I need this job because I'm transferring back in, and I know I need to perfect my data and assessment skills. I need to go back. I know this stuff. I really would love you to give me the opportunity. I wasn't desperate. I said, I will love it, and I'll knock it out the park, and I'll commit to that because I'm going to school. And they were like, what? They were like, but what they were fascinated about me being a flight attendant. They were like, oh my God, how'd you do it every day? Like, I hate flying. They were so fascinated about that. They were like, oh, please, like, we got you. Like, we'll help you. You need time off. You need time. And it was the perfect environment for me to lock in and study and prepare for school. And so, like I said, when the time is ready, always be preparing, be studying, be applying to jobs, doing your resume, all the things. But also appreciate that time, because you don't know when you're going to get in that downtime. When you get in, you're in, you locked in. Now supporting your organization. You may not have time to really think abstractly about ideas or build your business or skill. Like even like a podcast, like you can do so many creative things, and then you don't know like those skills. I'm telling you, the skills we learn when we have that gap year, that time away, how we get to interact with other people from different places, how we look at our own strengths and get to have that quiet time with our minds. So many people don't get to have that, just work. You get to have that and appreciate that, because everything will come and it will be aligned perfectly. When I was on the Hill writing policy and thinking about people that it would impact, I thought about those experiences I had living abroad, being a flight attendant and meeting people from all over the world on a daily basis. I worked over 500 hours, not just commuting, just my working flew over 500 hours a year. And so I met people that showed me so much about communication and just caring about people. Again, going beyond tolerance of people, having to care about everyone's life. And I brought that to my field. And so anyone listening, it goes up. It gets better. Like it gets better. Sometimes you don't have nothing to do but to look up. I've been in those places, and every year I go through that in some way. Like, oh, I had to do something different. Like I had to, I had to challenge myself. I'm always like, I got to challenge. I got to do more. I got to do this. I got to master this. Like, oh my God, why did I learn about this? Now I have to obsess about it. During that time, obsess about something, but also care for yourself. Do like some self-care, like find out what you love. That's going to keep you grounded when you get back in. If you found that, like you said, with your dad, bonding with your dad, you find that to be your anchor. So when things get harder and you get back into the field, just those hard days, just stress, work stress, and things that come par for the course, you're like, but I remember how I made myself feel better, right? I remember that I have a family. And I always tell people, and they want to enter this field, my field, find the people that love you for who you are. Find the things that make you happy that you can leave, clock off, and go do. For me, it's hiking. Find that, because it's going to be what keeps you from crashing out. Like, that's what keeps me from crashing out. Like those things that are my anchors and that help me remember who I am. And it's not a job. It's, it's who I am. So yeah.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, that's me reading at the beach. That's my thing that keeps me anchored. That reading in my hammock is my favorite thing. But no, I really appreciate that. I really need to hear that, because for me, I'm so used to doing stuff all the time,
Mm-hmm.
traveling from place to place for internship, doing research here and here and there. So now I have time off and I'm chilling and I'm like, okay, I want a job. Okay, that one said no. That one said no. This place isn't hiring. And me wanting to be in this different place in my life, it
Mm-hmm.
has me worrying myself and putting my own deadlines, imposing it, and being upset that I'm imposing these own deadlines on myself. And then I'm like, wait, nobody's putting this on you. You're making yourself upset by thinking you have to have these things. You don't have to have
Mm-hmm.
anything. You've done X, Y, and Z. Be happy with that and just chill and wait for the moment. So thank you so much for saying that. That's very helpful for me, and I'm sure for my other friends, because I have plenty of friends now who are in the same boat and
Yeah,
like,
it's
hey man, I don't have
hard.
a
It's
job.
just
I don't
hard
have a
right
job either.
now. Look, it's just hard right now. Look, you all are smart. You're scientists. It is just hard right now. And it's hard because we're all making it hard. We have so many issues in our even in our country, in the world we're trying to solve, right? But we can't understand how to even hire people, right? It's not I always tell people, listen to me right now, get a brag book. I have a brag book right on this desk, and I write down every single thing that I have done to prove my worth. And even with me, when I was transitioning and getting new jobs and stuff like that, and I would get turned down or whatever, I would go back and look at this book. And then it will restore my confidence when I would interview. And I promise you, when the job for you comes, it's going to be nothing but building you up. It's going to be like a conversation because they're not going to waste time with you. They're gonna have you, but it's going to come in the proper time. When my opportunity came, like even when I was a flight attendant transitioning, it took me like 8 months, and I like it took me 8 months, and I was so sad about things that didn't work out. But when the opportunity came, like I mentioned, they were so supportive. They didn't care about all that stuff. They didn't care that I had like 3 years of a gap technically. They just saw like my passion, and they're the people that the job that's for you, it'll all make sense. Like it will literally, you'll be like, this was made for me, dude. Like this was made for me. They're treating me respectful in the interview. They're not doing weird stuff. Like they need 500 interviews to see if I'm valuable, trying to pick and poke. It's not going to be, it's going to come without chaos and confusion. And that is how you're going to know. Like that's always how I assess things that come to me. If it's for me, did it come with a lot of craziness and stress, and did it take me out of my character? And if you can still have peace, we're going to have to put in some work. It's going to be hard days, but if the initial relationship started off where people saw my value and what I can bring to the team, and also what the team can give me, that's the one for you. So don't get discouraged. Like it's just hard out here. Like I said, like I'm telling you, I support a lot of people. I mentor a lot of people. Even I'm getting mentored. My mentors have helped me this year with some transitions. It is hard, but all you need is that one yes. And usually when it starts to get like, life comes, when life really starts like kicking up the gears, and you're like, am I being punked here? That's when the opportunity usually comes. I promise. I promise. Like, am I being punked? That's when the opportunity comes. And I really believe like it's only temporary. But this is in cyber security. We have a shortage. We don't really even have a shortage. And that's another story for another day. But people are really losing hope. And if you're an employer listening to this, give a chance to that one person. Look at me. Someone gave me a chance, right? And look at what I've done, be able to make national impact and help. Now I'm building ecosystems and communities and different things, right? But someone just gave me a chance. If you can give others a chance and remember who you was, sometimes we forget how we started. Remember how you started, right? Give someone else a chance to choose to see someone enough to give them an opportunity, because we are talented. We are here. We're not just a token. We can come in and, roll with the best of them. We are ready to do the work, and we care. And you can't find that anywhere. If you see applicants that care, they genuinely are going to give their best. Give them a chance, because we need it. We need more people. And it's not all about what's on paper. Sometimes the work that is going to make the best impact comes from the people that have the heart to do it, not just the degree or whatever it is.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Because I remember I had a job interview a few weeks ago, and they were like, "Oh, we love you. Like you're a great candidate." They were so happy and talking to me in an interview, and then they were like, "Yeah, like you were like our basically like our second person, but someone else just had 2 years of experience and you didn't. So we'll move your resume to this person, whatever. And we're sorry we couldn't have you." I'm like talking to my mom, like almost crying, like I didn't want a
Yeah,
damn chance. Like I've been busting my butt doing X, Y, and Z. So I really appreciate you saying that, because for me it
it's
had been
not
really
you.
hard and feeling like vulnerable, because I was like, I've like kicked ass for the last 4 or 5 years straight.
Hmm.
Was it all for nothing? But then I got to the point now where I'm like, no, it wasn't for nothing. This is just the wrong time. And something I like to think of a lot is flowers bloom. They don't bloom all the time. It's just not my time to bloom. I'm sure somebody else is having a great time right now, and I've had
Mm-hmm.
a great time for the last like 4 or 5 years. It's okay to not be in a season right now where everything's working out. It's perfect. So yeah,
Yes,
I really
absolutely.
appreciate that.
Also, remember, you
And
have a skill in marine science. Look and cyber, right? There are engineering firms that look specifically for scientists to help with. They might be building something on a port. They may be, we had just the bridge that collapsed out here. They need someone to understand, maritime conditions, to understand what happens in the water, the ecosystem, underwater ecosystems. If you are, if even if those in marine science or other areas, if you are struggling, perfect example for me, the people that do my prosthetics, uh, a lot of them come from Hollywood as like visual artists and like
oh wow,
SFX artists, and then they come to, like, for example, it's called the Hanger Clinic, but the prosthetics that look lifelike, guess who's doing that? Artists. So they found a new pathway that is sustainable. Unfortunately, people have to keep being amputees. I'm one of them, but when they do it, they come and they paint your like literally they bring you in for multiple sessions. They paint your fingerprints. It literally, like, if I had it, the glove is like a hand, but if I had it, only a person that is skilled to do that on camera could do that, and they chose to bring their talents to the medical industry and do that. They're very in demand, so there's always opportunities to find that. We just need, if like for me in my cyber career, I need to speak up more to bring awareness to, like I said, scientists to come in and say, hey, you don't have to know coding. You don't have to code at all, but you know R. If you learn R, you definitely learn Python. If you learn Python, you can understand TCP, IP, OSI model, whatever. You can do that, but you can also help lead projects and be a strategic advisor to someone like me, a project manager that may want to do an ocean floor drilling project. You understand it. And so, it's just a way to pivot and think like, maybe at a research lab, they may not be hiring or whatever, but I can go into a field where I'm an anomaly right now and I can say, hey, this is my proposition, and just, rephrase and repackage, rebrand yourself, but you have a very in demand skill just in a niche area like oil and gas. Just so many opportunities. So I would encourage, yourself and other scientists, marine scientists, and those in that field to look at neighboring disciplines that you definitely can support, that critical infrastructure desperately needs scientists. Okay. Literally, anthropologists, marine scientists, biologists desperately needed, because we have to understand things beyond what we see on this computer screen. We're going out into the field and we have to understand and learn. Case in point, me, which is why I'm going into, the marine science world.
wow, okay. I'm feeling like ready to hop on job boards and all that right now. I'm about to open up
Yes.
LinkedIn like as soon as this is over. All right, so how did you build interdisciplinary partnerships in your work, and why you think it's important to foster these relationships? I know you talked a bit about not wanting to be in traditional silos when we were talking earlier. How do you go about doing that?
So, what I love most about my work is that it impacts all people. Everybody knows someone that relies on a computer. We all have a phone. Most of us have a phone. And so I start with, what does this mean for a community? Like, who needs to talk together? Who is not talking together? And I try to bring those people together, whether that's in academia, that's in the policy world, whatever that is, practitioners. And I love bringing people together to solve a solution, and I commit to that in my work. And so through that, I basically try to immerse myself in others' worlds. I will go to a conference. I will go and ask to shadow anything. I will do that and bring together and say, well, hey, did you know such and such was doing that work? And they're like, no, I didn't know that they were doing that. And I bring them over and I help each other and build coalitions in my work to get things done faster, to bring visibility to issues. Because I think a lot of times people are like, well, this community, we don't fit in. Our mission is different than theirs. But I always tell people, like, to peel back your mission, sentence by sentence, layer by layer. If the end impact is helping this community and doing this outcome, and someone else's is helping the same community and doing this outcome, and there's overlap. So, like, for example, like in the medical field and then with the cybersecurity industry, you all have to work together to understand. So a doctor, like my doctors, they're always interested in what I do. They all like follow me. They write like notes and everything, like, wow, like you're doing this cool thing, because me educating them on like AI innovation, and biotechnology. They love learning about that. They may not get the opportunity, even as top surgeons. They may not be able to really like hone in on that if they're working in their patients and stuff. So it's so cool when they get to learn about me and I get to learn about them. And like what matters to a doctor, I get to learn about so many things. That's how I do it in my own personal life. And so I commit to that in my work. Like, let's share. Like if I go to a tech conference, I'm like, people, I advise a lot of programs. I say, okay, well, what about you don't have this group? Like, what about artists? Like, what about this group and that group? Someone has to design the interface of your system. What about getting some visual media artists to come in and people that they obsess about aesthetics? Like, what about that? And I love have to do that because at the end of it, we are creating a user experience. Regardless of what we are making, there is a user of this, and it's a human being. And so we need all diversity of thought, diversity of perspective, cultural diversity, socio-economic diversity to help build the things that we actually love because the end user is a human, not just for computers. And so I try to, again, bring humanity and a heart into my work. I'm really big on that. Some people think, it's so fuzzy. Hey, I'm fuzzy. Like, I love cute stuff. Like, that's me. I love bringing stuff because I see the impact and I'm a product of that. And so, yeah, like, I don't know. I love bringing visibility to opportunities to connect that haven't been done. And the beauty of it is stepping back, seeing people connect, build really amazing things, partnerships, and it be another example of we can work together. Even right now in the country, it's very tumultuous, a lot of things, but no, we can always work together. And this is how. And so that's pretty much what drives my work and how I've been doing it.
Okay. So I got last few more questions for you. How was living abroad? You said you lived in two different countries. You said I believe you mentioned Thailand. How did that change your perspective on the world and even perspective on yourself and what you were going through?
Yes. So I lived in Thailand and I lived in South Korea. And then through that time, I traveled all over Africa and in Southeast Asia and in many places. And you know what? I always tell people like that experience told me a lot about like when people choose to love you. Sometimes, especially like, and again, this is not to say we're a monolith with Black people. Like we're like, oh, like we can go to another place, like like what, like we aren't there and stuff like that. And so, did I have some of those views when I went? I was like, man, ain't nobody look like me. Like, what? I'm just gonna be judged for real. Like that. This is all you get. This is what you gonna get when you see me. I had my locks at the time, so I was like, okay, and people, the relationships I built, I had nothing but me out there. I had to build relationships how we used to back in the day. You just had to go out and you had to build up the courage to say, hey, can you play with me?
Yeah.
Can you didn't have your phone to hide behind. You had to really go out there. And so that's what I had to do. And it showed me a lot about loving others and caring about people, even when they have an opinion about you based on a stereotype that they may have been exposed to. It showed me a lot about when people choose to look beyond that and work together to build something great. It taught me how to challenge my own biases and my own limitations on what the world saw me as and also how I saw myself. I had a view of myself that I would be looked at as a certain way. And sometimes people didn't even think that about it. It was all in your head, like, you tripping, right? We just want to get to know you. Like a stare isn't always a bad thing. Like somebody can get to wants to like they're just fascinated, think you're attractive. Like, you know what I'm saying? They could be so fascinated about like, wow, how did like you have locks? Like we don't see that every day. It's not always, oh, she's looking at me because, like, oh, like they think I'm ugly or like, oh, this is like weird. And it's not always the bad thing. It's a good thing. And it taught me a lot about love. Like it taught me a lot about how far you're willing to go to build a relationship with someone. Learning someone's language. I had to learn language. I had to learn cultural aspects of the community. I actually had to learn the values of a different place, right? To even just at the base level survive and navigate, to be able to get groceries and learn customs and learn different denominations of money. Like, you know what I mean? Like I had to put myself out there, but then to actually build connections with people, I had to choose to care enough and want to build the trust and the bond so much that I'm going to go home. I want to study the language and learn it. I'm going to go and learn formal greetings. They love it. Like, my colleagues, I remember I learned like some formal greetings in like Korean, and they were just so happy because they felt that I cared. It was like I always cared, but it was kind of, like trying to suss me out. And I'm like, sussing them out. I'm like, okay, I gotta show them that I'm for real. I'm really here to like be with them. And so I'm like, I want to learn some language. I want to go out. I'm gonna learn something. I'm gonna also go make some traditional food. I'm gonna go to the Thai festival, for example. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna build that, and then show me like that's what love is. We have love we can have love with our job, our family, and stuff, but that is the connector. Like really caring and choosing to go out of your way to learn something to make others feel comfortable and relate to them, even if it's for a temporary time. And that has carried over into my work. Like I want to go into your community. I don't want to just stand and judge. That's the easy way, right? That's easy to stand and judge. That's easy to self-eliminate. That's easy to, tolerate people. But to go in and actually care about people and really dive deep, that's a choice of a person that's willing and committed to seeing what possibilities and how things can bloom, can grow. And so it taught me that. And it taught me again about myself. Like people aren't always looking at you in a negative light. They're not always, the first thought is not always a bad thing. Like you don't have to it's a self-esteem thing. You don't always have to think like people are staring or they're saying something in their language about you that's wrong. Like I said, some of my family, when I grew up, my grandparents spoke Spanish. So if something someone's saying is not always bad, like why do we always think that? Like if she's talking about me, it's not always bad. Like, but how about you learn to see if it's bad or not, right? How about you learn, put yourself out there? So it taught me a lot about that. And it also taught me about making your world as big as you want to make it. My world wasn't only Jersey, right? My world wasn't only BC. My world is as big as Jasmine says it is. I can go and I can choose to create my world and who's in it at any point in time. And I hope that others that want to travel and explore, do research studies out of the country, please take that, because it's going to show you it's going to help you grow in so many ways. There's lessons to this day that I wasn't able to learn at the level of maturity I was at, or the place that I was ready to receive the message back then, 2016, 2017, 2015, right? But now in 2024, literally I had a moment like 2 months ago. I was like, that's why I went through that. Like, that's why I went through that in Korea. Like, that's why I went through that in Thailand. Like, that's why I went through that in the Philippines, wherever I was. So definitely travel helps me to help relate to. Remember, now at a national level, we're supporting people of this country. We're a melting pot. It helps me to relate to other communities. I love going to Asian Festival. I love learning about the different subcultures of a community, and not just saying oh, they're that group or there's different aspects of it. They're dynamic. You now I understand that. I know the values. I know how to show respect and just different things. And it absolutely helps me in my work and work with diverse teams and build out diverse teams culturally, especially because I know what that actually means and how it can help people relating to each other and respecting and caring about each other when you're going through life at work, being able to really build those bonds.
I think that's so wonderful because I have a similar experience of when I went to Indonesia this summer and I went and got the best chicken and noodles I ever had in my life, like the best ramen, eggs, all that stuff together. And I finished my meal. I was like, thank you guys so much. And one of my friends she's an Indonesian girl who grew up there in Bali and was translating for us and all that was really cool. And at the end of the meal, the guy who owned the store was like, hey, we want a picture with you guys. So we all got up and took a picture together. I'm like, oh, wow, there's going to be like a picture of me in some random Balinese restaurant. Probably I might go there again. I may not ever see that again, but it's going to be a picture of me there with those people. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I was just so happy that I was so happy that I had that experience and even buying things there. And my friend saying, yeah, the money you spent, she'll probably be able to use that. And that'll probably be like a week's worth of pay for her. And just being able to
Wow.
give back to them and do all that kind of stuff felt so great because I was experiencing their country, but also able to help them in some kind of way. Like, I'm like, dude, $4 can't give me anything in America. I'd rather give this to you guys. You guys get this
A
is like
bag of
$40
Funyuns is
here,
$4.75. A bag of Funyuns is $4.75. It's my favorite chip, and I almost passed out. So you're right. We can't even listen. I can't even buy my old school favorite, my OG. Okay, so yes, I love that, and it also, like you mentioned, it shows you that you exist. Look, that photo is never going anywhere. That photo is there, and it shows that we exist. And especially for Black and brown people, underrepresented people of any group, travel helps you realize and show others that you exist, because sometimes people really literally don't know exist. I think that was one of the biggest things. Like, there are people that have never met a Black person. Like, there are people that have never really seen a Black woman with locks. Like now they know I exist. Like, at the basic level, now they know I exist. And many people would probably never experience that. But when you're in a foreign land, And you now you're their first example of that, and now they see, especially when you come with kindness, they're like, wow, I met this young Black guy, and he was so
Nice
kind.
dude.
You setting the tone almost, like you setting the tone. And then I think with so many experiences in our world, we need more of that. Like, you don't have to just judge off what you see of a caricature. Like, no, I exist, and I brought light to you, and you exist, and you brought light to me. And now we can share that culturally. We can share that even if people in our communities never had that experience. The word of mouth, the stories we pass down, like, wow, like, I don't have to just judge this group off of this, because I know the one experience I did have was just such a blessing to me. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, they don't see that we're all, Riley from the Boondocks or whatever. Like they see someone new, and I'm really happy that just to have that experience and to see that other people have had similar ones. And so now
Yes.
I'm wondering, what are your future plans and how do you hope to continue breaking these stigmas and expanding these horizons in the next part of your career?
So the next part of my career, at the general level, I want to show people that it's possible. It doesn't matter how old you are, like where you come from, what background. Dude, just do it. Like, do the thing. Like, you can do it, but you have to commit to it. And so I hope that my story, like I said, I'm like documenting my swim practice, my dive, like all my things, like getting my dive cert, like going into school, like doing all these things to show proof. Because a lot of times, like, we tell our stories, but nobody really saw, like, all the people like, oh, that sounds great, like, ah, ha, ha, we feel good, and then they go home, and then they're like still feeling lonely. I want to galvanize it, and I'm going to document it, and I'm working and I'm documenting it, filming different aspects of it, and the end result would be like a small, like, mini film, a documentary of my life transitioning into this field, and like different other areas of my life that led me to this, to help others to see the possibilities and how it impacts humanity and how we can best support the world. Like I said, I'm planning and studying and mapping out like my research proposals and different things that I would do in a formal program, a master's in professional science program. I definitely am doing that. I am actively working. My birthday is in July of next year, so I want to make sure that I have my PADI open water dive cert. So I'm working on that, and I also want to get my
Ooh.
scientific diver cert. So that's like part 2, and so those are my like near term goals. Like I said, of course, grad school, and just like really fine tune, like finalizing what schools and programs I want to do, and then continuing my work. I'm getting ready to start a new assignment, and just so many different things. But like I said, locking in, especially with BIMS, we're in our fellowship. I was so excited. So all the
Yeah.
opportunities, I can't wait to tidal wave. I'm just so excited. So definitely, like I said, further immersing myself, like going on site visits within, marine science field, like getting my certs, and also, like I said, my education, and then telling the story and giving back. So I love giving back. I have a few speaking engagements next year, but also integrating this story, like my story, to help others, but also from a scientific aspect, or from like a formal like policy and aspect in my discipline, showing like I'm building out a framework. I call it the 7A's framework. I spoke about it at the Grace Hopper convention. It's a huge computer science convention for women and non-binary technologists, and I talked about how we can use like these 7A's as pillars to help drive any work in any field. I'm testing my hypothesis. So it deals with advocacy, awareness, agency, alignment, accessibility, accountability. I'm forgetting an A, but yes, like, yes. So basically, you can use that structure on a personal level, like a personal framework, as you're guiding your work, whether you're a student, studying, or you're in a C-suite, you're making decisions, and you say like, hey, did we bring awareness? Is this community we're trying to deploy this system in aware of this? Do they understand, like, what and how are they aware, right? Are we becoming accountable for going and making impacts to the local environment? Like, we might cause erosion or something. Are we doing that? Like, it's a framework and I use this in my own life, like developing policy, doing whatever personally. And I'm like, no, I have to bring this to the world, because many people feel like they can't help and they can't do anything. But here's a tool to help guide you, and you always have something to answer to, like, like a structure to guide you. So I'm working on formally publishing that, and just a lot of different things I'm working on as next steps to help do this. And hopefully, like I said, I don't like to go anywhere where I can't bring someone with me. And so hopefully to help bring other people up and encourage them to enter the field, expand their opportunities and their vision for what they can do in the field. I don't believe you should just, feel like you're stuck in doing one thing or a thing. You could do all things. It's just about how much you believe that. So hopefully, like I said, next year I really want that to be the theme, uplifting others as I even challenge myself. And I always tell people, look, if I'm telling you, believe I'm doing it. We're going to have our hard days, we're going to lick our wounds, and then we're going to get back up and get our head in the game and make some plays. So that's what I hope next year my theme is. And I'm so happy to see, like, next year around this time, like, what fruits that bore, not only for myself but for others too.
Okay, got my very last question for you. I know I've had you here a long time,
No,
but so
no
once you let you get back to
worries.
the rest of your day. But so give me your five favorite animated projects ever. It can be a TV show, it can be like a short, it could be a movie. Give me your top five animated projects.
So number one, I like the Samurai Jack final, like the finale movie that they randomly came out with. So I like that.
Uh-huh.
The movie Big Fish, I really like that movie. I love the story behind it. Benjamin Button, I love the story and the special effects with that. I am a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So I'm going to say the Davy Jones story of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise and just the special effects with that. And then I wouldn't be me if I didn't have Jasmine in the Aladdin story, because that's what I was named after. I was named after Princess Jasmine. Jasmine from Aladdin. Like, my mom named me after that, and Jasmine Flower. So I have to put Aladdin up there all the time because that's literally who I was named after. So, yes, those are my top five.
All right, thank you so much. That was Jasmine Suarez, everyone. It's a great interview. I'm so glad you're able to join us and take time away from your busy schedule to talk to us. And yeah, guys, Black Nerds Matter. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
good one.
you.